I'm not.
That's why the election was lost.
You woke. Now you can. Now don't get me wrong. Inflation, immigration, of course. But that woke culture, they took the shit too far.
You gotta watch my show. I know you don't. Because you see it always. You have to see it Friday. Because
past Friday?
No, this current.
Oh, this Friday.
He's crazy, but crazy people don't have the time to pretend about. That's why he can say countries.
You say time.
As if nobody else ever said or thought that there were countries.
But Bill, you say the time.
Have you ever watched two people who should be on the same team accidentally tear holes in their own side? That's exactly what happened during the exchange between Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith, two lifelong Democrats who are clearly exhausted from pretending their party is thriving when it isn't. This wasn't a polite, polished chat meant to spare feelings. It was a blunt reality check that left plenty of liberals stunned. The discussion kicked off with the issue everyone's been quietly thinking about: Joe Biden running again in 2024. Stephen A. didn't soften a word, saying out loud what half the country has been murmuring. Biden would be 82 at the start of a second term and 86 by the end. And while age alone isn't a crime, Stephen A. made it clear that wasn't his concern. His frustration was obvious, not cruel, but direct. As he raised the question Democrats keep avoiding: how do you rally a divided nation behind someone who often appears to lose his place mid-thought? What made the moment stand out wasn't how harsh it sounded, but how honest it was, and people noticed because someone inside the tent finally admitted the obvious.
I have never wanted to be on your show more than I wanted to be on your show when Biden announced that he was going to run for re-election. Because I'm like this, what y'all going to say now? This is some straight bullshit. You got a situation where you won the midterm. You denied, you halted, you warded off the red wave. And you, knowing you're going to be 81 at election time, knowing you're going to be 82 in office, right? It wasn't the midterm. It was when the State of the Union address took place. And I saw these people, remember the liberals, right? So when you call yourself progressives.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're looking forward with a dude that's gonna be 82 and would leave office when he's 86. Really, y'all?
Maher didn't push back. He agreed, continuing his long-running warning that Democrats risk losing everyday voters by clinging to a woke at all costs mindset. Yes, issues like immigration and inflation matter, but both men pointed out that hypersensitive culture wars are driving people away faster than any attack ad. Every joke becomes dangerous, every misstep unforgivable, and any opinion outside a narrow online script gets punished. What once stood for free speech, creative expression, and open debate now feels tense and fearful, with actors apologizing for old roles and comedians second-guessing every line. As Maher put it, trying to speak freely now feels like walking through a minefield, and instead of progress, it's starting to look like self-inflicted damage.
And I'm like, I knew I wasn't voting for Trump. I knew that wasn't gonna happen, but I was saying to myself, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? And then I looked at the bullpen. They had no one. They had no one. They had no one that could compete with Donald Trump.
Well, not on a charisma level.
Fair. Okay, fair enough.
No,
but charisma is what gets you votes.
Stephen A. made a sharp point about comedy, noting that in Biden's America, cancel culture didn't just show up for exercise, it stayed for endurance training. Speaking freely became risky, and a single offhand joke or mispronounced word could put a career on the chopping block. Even laughing felt unsafe. Picture a comedy club where half the room is enjoying the set while the other half is quietly deciding whether to get you banned online. That isn't culture, it's chaos.
And then flying out, I should stay. I was planning on leaving Friday.
Watch it in
I should
person.
come to the damn show just to watch. Just to watch it.
Awesome.
Just to watch it.
You can heckle it.
Absolutely.
You can yell at the screen.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Now Trump's in press. Now Trump's president. I can make that joke.
Very rude, very nasty. Of course, you didn't even say hello.
I couldn't make that joke under Biden. Now I can make that joke.
That's why Maher's show works the way it does. Real conversation, no pretending, no polish. He respects Stephen A. for the same reason. Both are direct, perceptive, and allergic to nonsense. Things got especially interesting when they tackled a question many avoid: why a growing number of Americans, including some Democrats and Black voters, are starting to drift toward. This is where the conversation took a wild turn, because Stephen A. argued that calling racist didn't damage him at all. It actually helped him. As surprising as that sounds, he said it energized supporters rather than pushing them away.
Crazy, but crazy people don't have the time to pretend about. That's why he can say countries.
You say
and everybody,
time.
as if nobody
But
else
Bill,
ever said or thought that there were
But
countries.
Bill, you say the time, I say the interest. Like, for example, so you walk into Club Random, okay? Let the audience know what Club Random is.
Well, there's no audience.
It's a conversation.
That's what
that's
makes it
out,
so
watching
great.
out there. That's watching out there. Yeah, they're watching.
That's watching, yeah.
It's watching, right? But it's no. You're gonna have a real conversation. You're gonna have a real conversation.
So real.
You're gonna have a real conversation. That's why I'm here. I'm not wasting my time talking to somebody that's gonna be a phony.
You're exactly the kind of guest I like.
You understand?
Because you don't ever.
They stopped taking the media's labels seriously, fascist, racist, sexist, orange menace, and tuned them out completely. Instead of weakening, the nonstop accusations blended into background noise and were seen as proof that the media him. And when you place those claims next to decades of footage showing joking, working, and socializing with Black athletes, entertainers, and business leaders, the attacks didn't land the way critics expected. For many voters, the contrast made the outrage feel exaggerated, even performative, and that reaction only strengthened his base rather than shrinking it. Then Maher dropped another hard truth. The media's credibility has completely fallen apart. In their obsession with tearing down one man, they abandoned their actual responsibility reporting facts. You can't spend every waking hour attacking while pretending nothing questionable is happening on your own side. People remember how the media brushed off
and I were friendly.
Right.
Before he ran for president. He used to have these boxing matches, particularly during the Tyson fights at the Trump casinos. He would be at the Knicks games and stuff like that. And if we're being totally honest, all the brothers found him to be cool.
Right.
They found him to be very cool. So let's be clear, because he knew his sports, all right? He would say what he feel.
Right.
He bucked the establishment, which we love. And we gravitated to that, and obviously,
and also he was a certain age,
and it was cool.
Get a certain
it was cool
understanding that white men of that age,
right?
They're going to be a little grandpa. We don't say that anymore.
No,
but like,
him.
Is he really in his heart hateful? No, I think
I don't
think his motivation is I don't like black people. I think his motivation is everybody must love me.
Thank you.
The Hunter Biden laptop story, treating it like a fairy tale, only to quietly admit later that it was real, after the damage was already done. That selective outrage didn't go unnoticed, and nothing destroys trust faster than hypocrisy. In that moment, Maher and Stephen A. were voicing what millions of Americans think but hesitate to say out loud. As media coverage became warped, voters grew fed up. Between selective anger, cancel culture spirals, and relentless woke overreach, the Democratic Party began to feel less like a voice of reason and more like a national hall monitor, constantly lecturing people on what they're allowed to think, say, or laugh at. Ironically, by trying to control the narrative, they created the very force they feared, became a symbol of resistance, growing stronger every time they tried to erase him. Each insult turned into a badge of honor, because someone whose brand is built on being untouchable can't be erased.
In this country that called him a racist did him a favor when they did that.
Interesting.
They did him a favor because it galvanized his base to say, we don't want to hear that. Look at the economy. Look at the borders. Look at crimes in the streets of America. We don't want to hear that. And he's able to easily dismiss that because on too many occasions you saw him on camera very comfortable with minorities. So because of that, the visual that you talk about, it played a role because he knew he had a portfolio of appearances with black folks throughout decades where you had no problem with him.
When Stephen A. said Democrats don't even seem focused on winning anymore, just making noise, he wasn't wrong. While they argue over pronouns, email signatures, and ideological purity, everyday voters are worried about costs, jobs, safety, and basic stability. And while Republicans push forward despite their own internal mess, Democrats still seem stuck in a circle debating who's the most progressive instead of figuring out how to lead. That's the real warning sign, and it shouldn't be ignored. When longtime voices on the left like Stephen A. Smith and Bill Maher start pulling away, you're not just losing votes. You're losing the cultural middle. You're losing the people who used to defend you at family dinners, the ones who translated your arguments to skeptical relatives, and once those people start rolling their eyes, the game is already over. What made this moment powerful wasn't two men complaining. It was two sharp, influential figures saying out loud what many had been quietly thinking. The Democratic Party has drifted into performative politics, a kind of moral stage show where outrage is the headline and feelings outweigh facts.
His daddy owned apartment complexes and minorities was in those complexes. Then don't you have to bring up Biden and his relationship with Senator Byrd?
Yeah.
You understand? Who was from West Virginia, who died at the age of 97, that was in office until he was about 97, who, by the way, was a former member of the Ku Klux Klan.
Was a Klan?
You have to bring that up. Don't you have to bring up the 90s when you had the Congressional Black Caucus and you talking about the crime bill that Clinton pushed through that Biden was so vociferous about? You have to bring this stuff up, and you're going to bring up Trump in the 70s. So I'm listening to people and I'm like, are you trying to win or are you just trying to make noise? Because he's going to get past this.
But feelings can't run a country. Identity debates don't fix border issues. And slogans don't bring down inflation. Governing requires competence, momentum, and leaders willing to make tough calls, not endless purity checks that push out anyone who doesn't perfectly fit the mold. That's what Stephen A. meant when he said the movement went too far. Not that progress is bad, but that it's tipped into suspicion and exhaustion. Even liberals are worn out. They don't want to stress over whether a word from decades ago is suddenly forbidden, and they don't want long lectures about minor offenses when rent just went up again. People aren't looking for scolding, they're looking for leadership. That's why conversations like this matter. Maher and Stephen A.
Let me be very, very clear. If the Democratic Party becomes the likes of Zoran Mamdani, who, by the way, I like. I'm not trying to throw any shade on him or anything like that, but if the Democratic Party becomes him, you have no chance. You have no chance. On a national basis in terms of the presidency. In Senate seats in the House, you have no chance. You have no chance. I want to be very, very clear about that. You might have a Democratic Socialist sprinkled here and there, but that ain't what America is.
Resonate not because they're perfect, but because they're honest and they represent a growing group of politically homeless Americans who still believe in liberal ideas but feel pushed out by extremes. They're tired of being told that common sense is wrong, yet they don't want to jump to the other side either. And that growing space in the middle is where the real struggle now lives. That's really the audience here, let's be honest. Maher and Stephen A. are speaking to the sensible middle, to people who just want grown-ups back in charge. The left will likely label this conversation problematic, maybe even spark a new social media frenzy with the latest buzzword. But the truth is simpler. These two are willing to say the quiet part out loud. They care about the country, they argue in good faith, and they're no longer pretending everything is fine when it clearly isn't. That's what made this exchange so compelling. It wasn't just about politics, it was about honesty, clarity, and finally confronting the absurdity that's been exhausting people for years.
Oh, Bill, what are we going to do if Trump wins? I'm like, you know what you're going to do? Go back and finish your $900 dinner for 4 people.
Right.
That's what you're going to do.
Yes.
And your taxes are probably going to go down like they did the first time, and everything else, you can give it back.
I don't realize they make it hard on people like yourself and me who will vote liberal. But we're sensible. We're not extreme. We're not extreme.
That's why the election was lost.
You woke. Now don't get me wrong, inflation, immigration, of course. But that woke culture, they took shit too far.
You gotta watch my show. I know you don't get a chance to see it always. You have to see it Friday. Because
You don't have to agree with them to respect the courage it takes to speak plainly, because real change never starts with silence. It starts with uncomfortable conversations like this one. The takeaway is straightforward. If Democrats don't shift their focus from constant moral signaling to actual results, they will keep losing. Not just elections, but trust. Regular Americans want leaders who talk like humans, not like carefully programmed machines trying not to upset a small online crowd. Keep that in mind when you wonder why the party feels adrift or why still holds influence. When Maher and Stephen A. sat across from each other and essentially said, enough is enough. It wasn't right-wing messaging or partisan spin. It was frustration, real and justified. Politics has become too theatrical, and too many people confuse strong feelings with real solutions. That's why blunt, imperfect voices keep breaking through. Whether you like Maher and Stephen A or not, they're at least willing to speak honestly, and that's the reality check the left desperately needs. If emotions keep replacing reality, both elections and public trust will continue to slip away, and that's the real mic drop. If this analysis made you think, share your view in the comments and let's keep the conversation going. This discussion is far from finished.